Horror games give us monsters, ghosts, and creatures designed to scare us, but nothing compares to a stalker. A presence that hunts you, tracks you, learns you. An enemy you don't just fight, but survive. These are the characters who turn exploration into panic, silence into tension, and every doorway into a potential ambush. In this video, we're breaking down 10 of the scariest stalkers in horror games, what makes them terrifying, how their games implement the stalking mechanic, and the moments that cemented them in horror history. From iconic AAA nightmares to indie legends, this is the definitive look at the pursuers who never stop coming. Note, I will only be choosing one character per series for this video. Now let's step into the dark and take a look at those who will follow you into it. There are plenty of creepy things that you will encounter in Clock Tower. However, few stalkers in horror gaming are as foundational or unnervingly methodical as Scissorman. Long before modern chase AI or reactive enemy behavior, this sharp-armed pursuer established the blueprint for what a horror stalker could be. Small in stature, but monstrous in presence, Scissorman is instantly recognizable. The twisted grin, the oversized shears glinting under dim light, and that unnatural, almost puppet-like walk. He doesn't rush, he advances with a confidence that says he will catch you. It's only a matter of time. The creature lurking behind those scissors is Bobby Barrows, a deformed child raised in isolation inside the Barrows mansion. Groomed by a cult-like family and surrounded by tragedy, Bobby never had a chance at normalcy. What emerged was a violent, obsessive hunter with a single purpose: to eliminate anyone who entered his home. Scissorman works because he shows up when you least expect it. The game uses randomized encounters, meaning he can emerge from closets, hallways, or rooms you thought were safe. This randomness creates an anxiety loop where the player is always anticipating him, the scraping of blades, or the iconic metal snip, long before he appears. Unlike many later stalkers, Scissorman doesn't learn the player's behavior, but for 1995 the illusion was strong. He felt like he was searching for you. His entrances are abrupt, his pathing is simple but direct, and every encounter becomes a small puzzle about using the environment to stay alive. The hiding mechanics are simple but high stakes. Showers, curtains, wardrobes, and other set pieces serve as potential safe zones, but the reliability is inconsistent. Sometimes hiding works, sometimes Scissorman pulls back the curtain or flings open the closet, forcing immediate escape attempts. Without combat, the player's survival revolves around environmental awareness and trial and error, learning which rooms offer safety and which ones bottleneck you into danger. The lack of guaranteed hiding spots also means the player never fully relaxes, making Scissorman feel omnipresent even when he's absent. Scissorman may seem primitive compared to modern AI, but his influence is undeniable. He's the prototype, the original template for the persistent, unpredictable stalker every horror fan knows today. In a hallway that loops endlessly, one figure turns the repetition into terror. You hear the footsteps, the sobbing, the static, long before you ever see her. Lisa isn't just a stalker, she's the presence that rewrites the rules of the room you're standing in. Lisa comes from PT, the now legendary playable teaser for the cancelled Silent Hills. Despite taking place in a single looping hallway, PT became one of the most influential horror experiences ever released, and Lisa is a big reason why. She's the invisible force behind every unpredictable twist, turning the hallway into a psychological trap. Lisa is a tall, broken figure, with lifeless eyes, fractured posture, and a face twisted permanently by grief and violence. Her movements are jerky yet intentional, like someone forced to walk on bones that don't align. She flickers under the dim lights, half limping, half floating, always accompanied by the distorted radio static that signals she's close. Not much of Lisa's story is directly told to you. The game only gives fragments: a radio broadcast, a mutilated fetus in the sink, a voice whispering through a cracked bathroom door. From these pieces, Lisa emerges as a woman murdered by her husband, trapped in the loop of her own final moments. She wanders the hallways as if reliving her death endlessly, disoriented, grieving, and violent. She's not a monster so much as a casualty whose agony reshaped the entire house. The looping hallway becomes a metaphor for her suffering. No escape, no resolution, only repetition and rage. Lisa doesn't follow traditional enemy AI. Instead, her stalking is built around unpredictable triggers and proximity cues, making her appearances feel random and uncontrolled. The threat is constant because the player never knows if she's behind, ahead, or already inside the character. Unlike most stalkers, Lisa often kills the player to advance the game's state or push the story forward. Her attacks are scripted, but feel dynamic because PT blurs the line between controlled events and emergent hauntings. PT offers no combat, no hiding mechanics, and no traditional escape systems, which forces players to confront the environment itself as a threat. The design relies on the player's vulnerability. Because her appearances are tied to solving puzzles and progressing the loop rather than combat or detection systems, the tension comes from uncertainty. Players aren't managing resources, they're managing fear and anticipating when the game will break its own rules again. Lisa's scarcity and unpredictability make her feel omnipresent, even though she only materializes a handful of times. Lisa doesn't patrol hallways or break down doors, she doesn't need to. In PT, she becomes the environment itself, an ever-present ghost that stalks you by simply existing on the edge of the frame. Daniela is the kind of horror antagonist who doesn't need brute strength, monstrous mutations, or supernatural powers to terrify you. All she needs is that blank, glassy stare, that slow, almost curious walk, and the feeling that she wants something from you, something you can't give. In a game full of unsettling enemies, Daniela leaves the deepest psychological mark. Daniela appears in Capcom's 2005 survival horror game Haunting Ground, serving as one of the main stalkers who hunts Fiona through Belly Castle. The game is built heavily around vulnerability, fear, and psychological tension, and Daniela embodies that approach perfectly. She's not just an enemy, she's a reflection of obsession, jealousy, and the emptiness created by being manufactured rather than born. Everything about Daniela feels off. Her movements are graceful but hollow, like she's imitating humanity rather than living it. Her porcelain skin, long purple hair, and the cold expression give her an eerie doll-like presence, especially when she tilts her head curiously right before a chase begins. And then there's her voice, calm, whispery, and trembling with longing. She doesn't scream or roar, she simply asks questions that make your skin crawl, as if she's trying to understand something she was never built to feel. She is elegance wrapped into terror. Daniela isn't a woman, she's an artificial creation created by Ricardo to serve the castle. But unlike Fiona, Daniela was made without the ability to feel. No pleasure, no pain, no genuine emotion. She's an empty vessel, forced to exist in a world full of sensations she can observe but never truly experience. And that emptiness becomes her madness. When Fiona arrives, warm, emotional, alive, Daniela becomes fixated. Fiona represents everything Daniela was denied: humanity, femininity, desire, and even the ability to fear. That obsession consumes her. She doesn't just want Fiona's beauty, she wants her purity, her ability to feel, her status as a true woman. The tragedy is that Daniela isn't inherently evil. She's a creation desperate for an identity, driven by violence by her designer's cruelty and her own emotional void. Unlike other pursuers who rely on brute strength or intimidation, she uses silence, sudden appearances, and an unsettling calmness. She walks with purpose, but never rushes. Daniela often approaches from behind or slips into rooms almost with no sound, making her one of the most startling enemies in the game. Her behavior is obsessive rather than aggressive, and that obsessive unpredictability makes her dangerous. Mechanically, Daniela represents the midway spike in tension Haunting Ground is famous for. She's faster, more persistent, and far more perceptive than the pursuers before her. While Debilitas and Ricardo rely on intimidation or force, Daniela relies on pressure. She searches rooms thoroughly, reacts strongly to noise, and punishes players who rely too much on hiding. Her phase is filled with tight spaces, mirrored rooms, and environmental hazards that amplify her presence. Huey, your dog, becomes essential during this segment, as his distraction and attack commands give Fiona precious seconds to escape. Daniela's chase sequences stand out because they're psychological. The danger is not just being caught, it's her longing, her fixation, and her unpredictability. Daniela isn't just a pursuer, she's one of horror's most tragic villains, a manufactured soul chasing the humanity she was never allowed to have. Chris Walker is more than just a threat. He's inevitable. A living freight train of muscle, rage, and trauma whose footsteps alone can send players scrambling into the nearest locker. In a game overflowing with danger, he remains the face of Outlast's brutality. Chris Walker appears in the survival horror game Outlast, serving as one of the asylum's most persistent antagonists. A former Marine turned deeply unstable patient, Walker prowls the halls of Mount Massive with a singular purpose: contain the Walrider's influence at any cost. And unfortunately for you, that containment includes tearing anything apart, or anyone he thinks is infected. That's all he cares about. That's all he's become. You don't meet Chris Walker so much as collide with him. The first encounter is a jarring introduction, a towering mass of scarred tissue, restraints digging into his flesh, and a face that seems permanently twisted with both pain and fury. His breathing is deep and heavy, almost animalistic, echoing down hallways seconds before he comes into view. And when he does appear, the frame is always filled. He doesn't walk, he dominates the space around him. Blood-stained clothes hang off his frame, while his eyes, small and glassy, dart with the predator's focus. Everything about him feels wrong, powerful, and unstoppable. Before Mount Massive swallowed him whole, Chris Walker was a decorated military veteran. But decades of warfare and trauma left him psychologically fractured, vulnerable to manipulation, and obsessed with the idea of biological contamination. When he arrived at Mount Massive, the experiments only deepened the paranoia. He grew convinced the Walrider was a viral threat and that humanity's survival rested on him cleaning the facility. His mutilation isn't random. He tore off his own nose to reduce contaminants, his restraints still embedded because no one at the asylum cared enough to remove them. Walker didn't become a monster overnight. He was shaped, broken, and weaponized until the only language he understood was violence. Unlike other Outlast enemies who rely on unpredictability or stealth, Chris Walker uses brute dominance. You always know he's coming by choice. His heavy footsteps, deep grunts, and rhythmic patrols create an atmosphere of dread because he wants to be heard. His presence communicates inevitability. You won't outrun him, you won't overpower him, you can only hide and hope he walks past. His patrol routes are deliberate, and he checks hiding spots with chilling casualness, like it's a part of a daily routine. Walker's threat is psychological as much as physical. He turns every hallway into a trap, and every objective into a gauntlet. Mechanically, Chris Walker represents Outlast at its purest, helplessness. He appears at key moments to pressure the player, creating spikes of tension before major story beats. His chases are short, but brutally intense, forcing players to make quick decisions with almost no room for error. Walker's design intentionally disrupts the pacing, breaking moments of quiet exploration with sudden panic. Chris Walker isn't just an enemy, he's the embodiment of Outlast's brutality. A man ruined by war, consumed by paranoia, and turned into the asylum's most terrifying force of nature.
Get us home! Bitte! Bitte! Ich will raus! Gott! Nein! Gott!
The beast isn't introduced to you. You simply get the sinking realization that something enormous is moving beneath the surface of the bunker, and it knows you're there. The beast is the central stalker of Amnesia, the bunker. The game is built around improvisation, noise, and survival. The beast is the force that makes every choice feel like a life or death calculation. It is a towering, grotesque creature wrapped in layers of stitched flesh, the massive frame covered in makeshift restraints and embedded shrapnel. Its movements are heavy but purposeful, like something barely contained. You rarely see it clearly, only fragments lit by your flashlight or revealed in the split second before death. Its snarls echo through the concrete corridors, and its glowing eyes pierce the darkness just long enough for you to register its size. There's a sense that it was once human, but something has reshaped it into a relentless predator that treats the bunker as its hunting ground. The beast is the result of horrific wartime experimentation, an attempt to create a soldier who could survive the impossible conditions of trench warfare. Whatever humanity it once had has been overwritten by pain, conditioning, and the claustrophobic environment it now inhabits. The bunker didn't just imprison it, it shaped it. The low light, the endless tunnels, and the constant silence all became part of how it hunts. The creature knows the space better than you ever will, and its existence is a reminder of how war distorts everything it touches, even the human body. The beast's behavior is driven by a noise-reactive AI system that makes every action you take meaningful. Almost everything you do creates sound, firing a gun, pushing a crate, starting a generator, or even slamming a door. The beast hears it all. It investigates disturbances with increasing aggression, forcing the player to think like a prey animal trying to stay undetected. It doesn't teleport, it physically moves through the bunker's interconnected tunnels, meaning you can track it, anticipate it, and occasionally manipulate it. But once it locks onto you, the beast becomes frighteningly fast, breaking down barriers and charging with overwhelming force. It is reactive, persistent, and capable of shifting strategies based on the player's behavior. Amnesia the bunker weaves the beast into its core systems. The generator and fuel mechanics create a constant balancing act between light and darkness. The more the generator runs, the safer the halls become, but the louder the bunker gets, increasing the chances of drawing the beast's attention. Every tool from grenades to the revolver exists to manage your exposure rather than kill the creature. This combination of open-level design, resource scarcity, and AI responsiveness turns the creature into a dynamic threat that feels present throughout the entire game. No area is permanently safe, and no strategy works forever. the beast transforms Amnesia the bunker into a constant duel of sound, light, and tension. An ever-present reminder that in the dark, you're never more than a few loud footsteps away from being found. In the remake, Mr. X doesn't stalk you immediately. He's introduced with brute clarity, lifting the wreckage off the trapped police officer as if it were nothing. No roar, no theatrics, just a silent demonstration of strength that tells you exactly what kind of enemy you're dealing with. From that moment on, he becomes a constant pressure inside the RPD. Mr. X, also known as the T-00 Tyrant, appears in Resident Evil 2, but it's the 2019 remake that redefined him as one of gaming's most iconic stalkers. Capcom transformed him from a handful of scripted encounters into a dynamic, zone-based pursuer, reshaping how players navigate Raccoon City Police Station. He's a wall of muscle wrapped in a black trench coat, wearing a fedora that somehow makes him even more unsettling. His expression never changes, cold, blank, manufactured. But it's his presence that terrifies the most, the thunderous, echoing footsteps that shake the floors and ceilings above you. He moves like inevitability made physical. Mr. X isn't emotional, vengeful, or angry. He's a perfectly calm force designed to keep coming, no matter what you throw at him. Mr. X is part of Umbrella's Tyrant program, a bioengineered super soldier built to hunt and eliminate survivors of viral outbreaks. He isn't alive in the traditional sense. He's a weapon dropped into Raccoon City by helicopter with one objective: wipe out any evidence tying Umbrella to the disaster. His lack of emotion isn't a flaw, it's the point. He doesn't hate you, he doesn't fear you, he simply carries out his directive with the precision of a machine. Mr. X's Stalker design in the remake relies on zone-based AI system. He doesn't randomly teleport or appear without cause. Instead, he roams the police station logically, gravitating toward areas where the player recently made noise. Gunshots, sprinting, killing zombies, or slamming doors can pull him toward your location. When he loses sight of the player, he doesn't reset or wander aimlessly. He searches nearby rooms in the direction you were last seen moving, giving the impression that he's tracking you with intent. His slow speed is deceptive because the longer you're in one place, the more likely it is he'll corner you. He can open most doors, meaning traditional safe room behaviors don't apply outside a few designated spaces. The result is a predator whose pressure comes not from speed or aggression, but from his ability to close off your routes and force you into risky decisions. What makes Mr. X so effective is how he reshapes the player's relationship with the environment. The police station is already a maze of puzzle locks, dead ends, and backtracking. Once he begins patrolling, every route you take becomes a calculation. Can I afford to go through this hallway now, or will he cut me off? Even combat becomes a resource drain. Stopping him with gunfire only delays him briefly, and is not recommended. His presence continually pushes you forward, even when you want to slow down. The more confident you feel in the space, the more he interrupts that confidence. The entire game becomes a balancing act between progressing the story and avoiding the footsteps that signal he's closing in. Mr. X doesn't just chase you, he alters the rhythm of the entire experience. He isn't the most complex stalker in gaming, but he's one of the most influential, an enemy who turns every hallway into a gamble and every quiet moment into a trap. In the Resident Evil 2 remake, Mr. X is the reason the police station feels alive. The Xenomorph doesn't arrive with a dramatic cutscene. It simply drops from a vent above you, silent, controlled, and terrifyingly confident. From the moment it lands, it feels less like an enemy introduced by the game, and more like a predator that has been hunting long before you showed up. This creature is the central threat of alien isolation. The Xenomorph is tall and impossibly sleek, its elongated skull reflecting the station's dim lights as it moves with an unsettling, almost deliberate grace. It never rushes unless it has to. It stalks with confidence, pausing to scan its surrounding, like it already knows you're nearby. There's a cold intelligence in its movements. No wasted motion, no hesitation, just a creature designed with a singular purpose: to find you. Unlike many horror antagonists, the Xenomorph doesn't come with tragedy or corrupted humanity. It's not born from a curse or failed experiment. It's the product of a species engineered by evolution to be the perfect predator: fast, adaptive, and patient. Its life cycle is brutal, its biology efficient, and its hunting instinct absolute. There's no reasoning with it, and nothing emotional driving it. That lack of motive is what makes the creature feel so alien. It hunts because that is what it's made to do. The Xenomorph is widely regarded as one of the best stalker AIs ever created. It operates on a two-layer system: a macro-level AI that determines areas to investigate, and a micro-level AI that reacts directly to your actions. This makes it feel intelligent without it being predictable. If you hide in lockers too often, the creature begins to check them routinely. If you use the motion tracker, the sound can draw it towards you. Running increases the likelihood of it zeroing in on you, and even items like noisemakers can redirect it, but also risk making it curious about the source. The Xenomorph doesn't simply patrol, it learns, adjusts, and pressures the player into constant changing strategies. Alien Isolation was built entirely around the idea of a single, unstoppable pursuer. The Xenomorph can move through vents, drop into rooms you thought were safe, and roam seamlessly between different floors of the station. It creates a persistent sense of vulnerability, where no tool guarantees you safety. The flamethrower pushes it back, but only briefly. Hiding works, but too much hiding becomes dangerous. Even the level design supports its unpredictability, with vents, blind corners, and sound-reflective surfaces that amplify the creature's presence. Every encounter becomes a dynamic risk calculation instead of a scripted set piece. The Xenomorph doesn't just chase you, it adapts to you. And that evolving, almost personal sense of being hunted is what makes it one of the most effective and unforgettable stalkers in horror gaming. Slenderman doesn't announce himself with sound or movement. He doesn't need to. His presence is felt first, an uncomfortable pressure, a distortion creeping along the edges of your vision. And when you finally turn to look, he's already there, motionless in the dark, as if he's been watching you far longer than you realized. Slenderman comes from Slender, the 8 Pages, the 2012 indie horror game. Slenderman is always somewhere behind you. He's impossibly tall, with elongated limbs and a featureless white face that makes him look less like a creature and more like a corrupted human silhouette. His black suit and unnatural posture make him stand out in the darkness even when he's barely visible. Slenderman doesn't chase or run. He doesn't breathe, he doesn't animate, he simply exists, still, patient, and always watching. The horror comes from the idea that he could appear anywhere at any moment, silently claiming new ground without ever taking a single visible step. Originating as a piece of internet folklore, Slenderman began as a creepypasta, a manipulated photograph from Something Awful Forms in 2009. His mythology grew rapidly, stories of a supernatural figure who stalks children, distorts electronics, and induces paranoia. What makes him so unsettling is the deliberate vagueness. Slenderman has no explained motive, no origin point, and no clear rules. He's a modern urban legend designed to exploit the fear of being watched by something that cannot be understood. Slenderman's behavior in the 8 pages is built around a simple but brutally effective system. He becomes more aggressive as you collect pages, gradually increasing the likelihood of appearing behind you. Visual distortion acts as a proximity warning, static fills the screen, and audio interface grows stronger the closer he gets. You can't stare at him for too long because doing so accelerates the distortion, leading to a game over. His teleportation-based stalking removes predictability entirely. There's no route to memorize, no pattern to exploit. Slenderman is engineered to feel omnipresent, with his sudden appearances triggering panic that feeds into the player's mistakes. The entire game is designed to leverage Slenderman's unpredictability. The forest is intentionally uniform and easy to get lost in, forcing players to rely on limited landmarks and the beam of a flashlight that weakens over time. The lack of combat emphasizes vulnerability. Your only real defense is to break line of sight and keep moving. His teleportation and growing aggression create a pressure curve that escalates with every page you collect. By the time you reach the final pages, the tension is overwhelming, with Slenderman appearing more frequently, cutting off paths, and manipulating your senses of direction through audio distortion and sudden visual interference. The design is minimalist, but that simplicity keeps the player disoriented and constantly on edge. Slenderman proves that a stalker doesn't need to be complex, with animations or advanced AI to be terrifying. Sometimes all it takes is a silent figure in the dark who appears exactly when you least want him to.
Where do you think you're going?
The Red Nun is a presence that transforms the entire mansion into a place of dread. She is one of the primary stalkers in Remothered Tormented Fathers. Her appearance is ceremonial, yet grotesque, almost too precise, too deliberate. The way she moves is calm, gliding through hallways with slow, controlled strides, occasionally breaking that stillness with sudden bursts of speed when she senses prey. The soft rattling of her bell, the rustle of her robes, and the blank stare of her mask makes her feel less like a person and more like a symbolic executioner sent to carry out a punishment only she understands. Behind the mask is Gloria Ashman, a woman shaped and fractured by trauma, manipulation, and the twisted medical practices surrounding the phenoxyl drug experiments. Raised under suffocating religious pressure and later entangled in the corrupt Stella Maris institution, Gloria's identity splintered into something both devout and violent. The persona of the Red Nun becomes a manifestation of her devotion and her torment, a role she embraces to justify the horrors carried out in the name of purification and control. In many ways, the costume isn't a disguise, it's a confession. The Red Nun's behavior is built around slow, methodical pursuit. She patrols areas with deliberate loops, but reacts aggressively to sound, using auditory cues to home in on the player. She doesn't sprint constantly. Instead, she builds tension by allowing you to hear her before you see her, which forces the player to rely on patience and timing. Her AI prioritizes investigation of disturbances, giving her a looming, persistent presence rather than a strictly scripted one. When she does spot you, her chase sequences are intense but grounded, forcing you to break line of sight, hide quickly, or deploy distraction items to buy precious seconds. Remothered's gameplay revolves around hiding, misdirection, and sound management, and the Red Nun embodies that structure. The mansion's layout, tight corners, looping hallways, and multi-room clusters give her opportunities to surprise players from unexpected angles. She reacts realistically to doors being opened, objects dropped, or footsteps echoing through the house. Hiding spots such as wardrobes, beds, or closets become essential, but staying in one place too long can get you cornered. The game's lack of combat amplifies her threat. Your tools are defensive only, encouraging stealth over confrontation. As you progress, her encounters escalate, showing new behaviors and increased aggression that enforce her role as a symbolic and mechanical centerpiece to the horror. The Red Nun isn't just a stalker, she's the embodiment of Remothered's psychological terror, blending ritual, trauma, and cold persistence into one of the genre's most haunting pursuers. Few stalkers in horror rely so heavily on simplicity, yet achieve so much dread. A blank expression, a shapeless blue body, and footsteps echoing through a silent mansion. Ao Oni doesn't need elaborate story setups or cinematic flair. It thrives on unpredictability, on that sudden moment when it rounds the corner with no warning and forces you to sprint for your life. In a genre filled with complex monsters, this one proves that anxiety can be the most powerful weapon. Ao Oni is the primary antagonist of the 2008 Japanese indie RPG maker game, Ao Oni, one of the earliest viral internet horror hits. Like Slender, it gained fame through early YouTube Let's Plays and Japanese videos, spreading internationally thanks to its minimalistic yet terrifying run-and-hide structure. It quickly became one of the most iconic RPG Maker horror stalkers ever created. The Ao Oni is unsettling precisely because it looks so wrong. Its proportions are humanoid, but stretched, swollen, and smoothed out like a crude imitation of a person. Its pale eyes stare forward without thought or emotion, set into a face that never changes expression. Its skin is an unnatural blue-purple tone, as if drained of life or died in some chemical wash. Its movements are oddly fluid, yet creating a sense that it's mimicking human motion rather than performing it naturally. It never speaks, it never roars, it simply appears and keeps coming. One of the most effective elements in Ao Oni is its ambiguity. There is no definitive canon explanation for what the creature is. The mansion is rumored to be haunted, cursed, or home to a creature that devours humans, but the game never confirms anything explicitly. Theories range from the Oni being a mutated human, to a supernatural parasite, to an embodiment of the mansion's curse. The lack of clear backstory turns the Oni into something primal, a force rather than a character. It's the unknown that gives it power. You can't reason with it, you can't understand it, and you certainly can't stop it. Ao Oni's behavior is built on unpredictability. Unlike scripted horror enemies, it appears at random moments, often during puzzles or exploration, weaponizing your sense of concentration against you. Its chases are straightforward but incredibly tense. The Oni is fast, persistent, and capable of following the player through multiple rooms. In some versions and fan adaptations, it can even mimic other characters or break environmental rules, emphasizing its unnatural nature. What makes the Oni stand out is that it doesn't telegraph itself. There are no musical cues, no warnings, no dramatic entrances. It simply emerges and begins pursuit, turning every quiet moment into potential danger. The RPG Maker engine limits elaborate enemy AI, but Ao Oni uses those limitations to its advantage. Each encounter becomes a pure reaction test. You must immediately break line of sight, navigate tight corridors, and find predetermined hiding spots. Because the Oni chases at high speeds and kills in one hit, the player must develop a mental map of the mansion and remain prepared at all times. Its appearances are timed just loosely enough to feel random, keeping the cycle constantly active. This unpredictability, combined with the simplistic but relentless chase mechanics, created a blueprint for dozens of indie horror games that followed. Ao Oni proves that a monster doesn't need backstory, realism, or complexity to be terrifying. It only needs persistence, unpredictability, and the perfect moment to appear. Stalker enemies leave a different kind of scar. They don't just frighten us in the moment, they linger, long after the screen goes dark. Whether it's the relentless footsteps of a towering brute, the quiet glide of a determined pursuer, or the sudden appearance of something impossible to predict, these characters redefine what fear feels like in a game. If you enjoyed this breakdown of horror's most unforgettable stalkers, please consider slashing that like button and subscribing to the channel. There's plenty of exciting horror game content coming your way soon. And as always, thanks for watching and stay safe out there.